The first named storm of the season brought heavy rains and high winds to the coast of Texas and Mexico, leaving behind severe flooding in some parts of the Lone Star State. More than 50 counties are under a disaster declaration. Meantime, crews are bracing for flooding, lightning, and cooler temperatures as they battle a pair of growing wildfires in New Mexico. At least 2 deaths have been reported.
It's heartbreaking to know that he didn't make it, to know that he was trying to run for his life.
A Juneteenth celebration in California took a violent turn Thursday. At least 15 people were shot after an illegal sideshow took over a peaceful holiday celebration in Oakland. Nearly 24 vehicles took over the Juneteenth event, attended by roughly 5,000 people. Authorities are seeking multiple shooters. Manhattan's district attorney has dropped charges against nearly all the protesters arrested inside a Columbia University. Had their cases dropped due to a lack of evidence. Prosecutors say the rest of the offenders will have their cases dropped if they stay out of trouble. Those are your headlines. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at your weather on the ones.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. We are tracking some storms still left from that. The moisture from the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Alberto that's being pulled up into the Four Corners region. Come Friday into the afternoon, we'll be watching some storms developing here from the northern tier, basically the plains all the way into the Midwest and parts of the Great Lakes. Now, temperatures still relatively warm for the morning with all those 70s across the eastern half of the country. Then during the day, Boston coming down into the 80s, but look at all those 90s still in Chicago, Columbus, and New York.
Authorities in Mexico have reported a 4th storm-related death following Tropical Storm Alberto's landfall. The man was electrocuted while trying to repair wires in the rain. 2 miners also died from electric shocks. Alberto brought severe flooding to parts of coastal Texas. The storm is expected to bring rain to New Mexico on Friday. Crews there are already battling deadly wildfires. At least 2 deaths have been reported. Meantime, on the other side of the U.S., millions of people are dealing with a heat wave. Spectrum News anchor Carla Redditt has a look at when the sweltering heat may finally subside.
Rain is good for putting out fire. The rain is not good for pretty much everything else.
Definitely not good for miles of fire-scorched earth in New Mexico, where heavy rains have turned wildfire-ravaged roads and towns into flood and mudslide zones, which could worsen as Tropical Depression Alberto.
We're unsure about the direction of the fire at this point.
2 massive fires continue to burn with little to no containment, leaving at least 1,400 structures destroyed so far. The human toll also growing more tragic. The son of a man found dead in Ruidoso Tuesday says his father's broken leg prevented his escape.
It's heartbreaking to know that he didn't make it, to know that he was trying to run for his life.
The National Hurricane Center says Alberto will start to lose some of its punch now that it's tracking through central Mexico. Still, its impact along the Texas coast has yet to subside. 51 counties there are under a disaster declaration. Corpus Christi reported a 3.5-foot storm surge Thursday morning, and water levels are expected to rise even more with high tide. And it's yet another scorcher for much of the Midwest and Northeast. The National Weather Service predicts extreme, potentially reaching 100 degrees in cities like Washington, D.C., a mark not seen there since August of 2016. Carla Redditt, Spectrum News.
Spectrum's Adolfo Muniz continues our team coverage of the first named storm of the year. Adolfo, you're on the ground in McAllen, Texas. What are you seeing there, and what can you tell us about some of the harder hit areas?
Well, absolutely, Sharon. Well, as you can see right now, we got a wind spell, and we have been having this throughout the day. You know, the rain comes and then it suddenly stops. Even the sun comes out to be followed by more rain. But this area was not the one that was the hardest hit. We're talking about Corpus Christi all the way up to Houston, Texas, and Galveston Bay that got the most hit, especially with the storm surge that is expected, you know, since that city is right by the coast. Because of that, well, you know, the city got flooded. Luckily for us, hey, but no catastrophic flooding and no other damages that we are aware of yet, Sharon.
Yeah, and Adolfo, officials say that the rain was much needed in many areas of Texas.
Yes, absolutely. It was very, very needed. We just been through a very long drought and the water shortage was becoming critical. Well, I spoke to personnel from the International Boundary and Water Commission at the Falcon Lake, and Falcon Lake is still at 10%. So despite of all the rain that we got, 4.29 inches right here in McAllen where I am, the water shortage did not get that much of relief, but yet hopefully we will get more rain in the future, and the fields and the people will get a relief as well from the heat that we also have this time of the year, Sharon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Adolfo Muniz in McAllen, Texas. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
As a state sponsor of terrorism, the resolution comes just one day after Russia and North Korea signed a defense agreement. Spectrum's Aaron Kelly is in Washington with a closer look at the proposed legislation.
Calling it a key moment in Ukraine's fight against Russia, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby says the U.S. is redirecting missile shipments bound for other countries to Ukraine. He said the decision is necessary as Russia steps up attacks on Ukraine's power grid. The countries that were supposed to get the now diverted shipments eventually will receive the missiles. The announcement comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed a defense pact, pledging their countries would back each other in the face of, quote, aggression.
It is time for us to push back. Now is the moment.
On Capitol Hill, Senators Richard Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham announced a bipartisan effort to designate Russia a state sponsor of terrorism.
Russia of atrocity-committing killers.
Currently, 4 countries are on that list: Cuba, North Korea, Iran, and Syria, determined by the State Department to have repeatedly provided support for acts of international terrorism.
Here's a general rule. Anybody that does a defense agreement with North Korea should be a state sponsor of terrorism.
Last month, President Joe Biden gave a limited clearance to Ukraine to use weapons from the U.S. to strike inside Russia. The Pentagon now says Ukraine has been allowed to, quote, fire U.S.-provided weapons into Russia across where Russian forces are coming to attempt to take Ukrainian territory. In Washington, Aaron Kelly, Spectrum News.
The Manhattan District Attorney's Office dismissed charges Thursday against 30 protesters who were Columbia University students. The group entered Hamilton Hall on April 30th and went to leave. Police arrested them on trespassing charges. There was a lack of evidence. Prosecutors say charges for the remaining people would be dropped if they avoid arrest in the next 6 months. It's World Refugee Day, and just ahead on Spectrum News, we'll speak to the U.S. State Department about ongoing efforts to help refugees all over the globe.
Spectrum News Plus, news from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus, streaming now on the Spectrum News app.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education class@.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Well, it's been busy so far in the tropics. Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. As you know, we've been tracking Alberto. Now we're just seeing the remnants of it coming across Mexico, but some of that moisture being pulled up into the four corners. And then we're tracking a couple of disturbances here. One is around the Yucatan Peninsula, so right around Mexico, Central America, and you can see a 20% chance of that developing into something in the next 48 hours. And then also this particular disturbance that's off the coast of Florida, basically in the Bahamas. And this is what will impact the weather there in Florida somewhat, but it's not expected to become anything major there. So in addition to that, we continue to track the storms that will be coming across the plains into the Midwest, all the way out into the Northeast. So this was the situation on Thursday. Notice where there was a slight chance for severe weather all the way up into the Northeast, and then here's how it changes on Friday. We'll see a slight chance of some of those severe thunderstorms, severe weather moving across the Dakotas there into Wisconsin. And then for Saturday, some of that severe weather will pop up as well right around Wisconsin. So Iowa also, parts of Minnesota. So here's why we see these storms developing as we go throughout the day on Friday into the afternoon. Some of this, again, could be severe, coming across these areas and eventually pushing it out into the Northeast for the weekend time. So this is where we're expecting some stormy weather once again, not only on Saturday, but potentially even as we go into Sunday. So here's the next 3 days. We'll go to Wilmington, North Carolina. Temperatures in the 80s, and we do have rain in the forecast, especially the best chance on it Friday night there. Temperatures in New York, still in the 90s and gradually warming up in over the weekend. This is one of those spots that's not really going to cool down much over the weekend. Houston, same thing here, but drier weather for you come the weekend time with some mid-90s, low to mid-90s for temperatures. And in Southern California and Los Angeles, those temperatures will be warming up there, gradually coming above average with 90s and triple digits in the inland cities of Southern California.
If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. At least 4 people are dead after Tropical Storm Alberto made landfall in Mexico. The storm also brought heavy rains and flooding in Texas. That same system is expected to help efforts in New Mexico as 2 wildfires continue to burn. At least 2 people have died. A bipartisan effort in the Senate is aiming to label Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. The resolution comes after Russia and North Korea signed a defense agreement a day earlier. That's what you need to know this evening. As we mark World Refugee Day Thursday, we wanted to find out more about the impact of U.S. aid overseas. And joining me now is Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration, Julieta Valls-Noyes. It's so good to have you with us. The U.S. recently...
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And the U.S. recently announced $400 million more in humanitarian aid to Gaza. How will that money be used?
So the needs in Gaza are really immense, whether it's for food, for fuel, for water, sanitation, and hygiene. And that $400 million will go to our international organization partners, such as the World Food Program, the International Organization for Migration, other partners to help support needs both inside Gaza, but also for Palestinians who are elsewhere in the region and in need of assistance.
And Ambassador Noyes, you just returned from Africa, where the U.S. is also pledging more money for humanitarian missions there.
I did. I was in Chad about 6 weeks ago to see the response to the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, which right now is the largest in terms of scale in the world, with over 9 million people forcibly displaced and over 3 million crossing borders into Sudan. At first they were leaving because of the war. Now they're leaving because they're hungry. Famine is imminent, if not already arrived there, and 90% of the people who are fleeing Sudan on foot, desperate, are women and children. And they're arriving in neighboring countries like Chad, which is the 5th poorest country in the world. And the needs of the local population are immense, as are the needs of these refugees. So U.S. assistance is intended to help provide shelter, food, support education, water, which is a real need in that very, very arid part of the world. So thanks to the generosity of American taxpayers and of the U.S. Congress in providing this funding, the United States is able to support these very desperate people and to help alleviate suffering and provide life-saving support.
Yeah, and Ambassador Noyes, your work with refugees is personal. What is the impact of refugees being welcomed here in the U.S.?
Well, you know, we're a nation of immigrants, ultimately, Sharon, and everyone has a story of where they came from. Where I came from is my parents arrived as refugees in this country from Cuba, fleeing an oppressive regime and coming to seek freedom. And this country welcomed my parents and our family and so many others like us. The United States has welcomed 3.5 million refugees since 1975. We're the biggest refugee resettling country in the world, and the United States is also the biggest single country donor of humanitarian assistance for refugees worldwide. So it is truly a privilege as a career Foreign Service officer to be able to give back to this country that gave so much for my family and for so many others.
And you actually kind of nailed it on the head there. You said we all have a story. Ambassador Julieta Valls Noyes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Authorities say arrests at the U.S.-Mexico border are down 25% since President Biden announced new asylum restrictions 2 weeks ago. New figures released show arrests in May also fell by 9%, making it the third lowest month during the Biden presidency. Aggressive enforcement on the Mexican side of the border has also helped bring the numbers down. At least 15 people were shot during a Juneteenth celebration in Oakland, California, Wednesday night. It happened after a large group of vehicles participated in an illegal sideshow known to cause chaos in the streets. Authorities say about 5,000 people were attending the peaceful Juneteenth event until 20 vehicles showed up for a street takeover to perform dangerous car stunts. Police are looking for multiple shooters in connection. Coming up on Spectrum News, the story of the first Black Barbie, how a new documentary is highlighting its impact on multiple generations.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
We are tracking the potential for some severe weather from the northern plains to the upper Midwest for Friday, and that is where flash flooding is possible. So heads up in all of those areas to be weather alert. We could get some, certainly some hail out of that and some damaging winds. And then heating up across the west, and we know it's already been hot for you out in the east and really the Midwest, but the west is now starting to warm up as well. Seattle goes to low 80s for your Friday with dry weather and sunshine. And Los Angeles warming up as well, slowly above average. And the weekend time, that's when temperatures will be even the hottest, and cities east of LA will be getting into the upper 90s and the triple digits, basically the Inland Empire, for instance. Salt Lake City with some rain, temperatures there in the 80s. Rain as well for you in Milwaukee, keeping those temperatures down into the 70s after some warm weather to start off the week. That warm weather still coming across places like Louisville with 90s there, New York in the 90s, Tampa. Typical this time of year, we're in the 90s there, but it's definitely the Northeast, the Midwest, that heat wave coming across these areas. It's getting a lot of headlines there. Now, Boston at some point earlier in the week, through about midweek, was about 19, I'd say 15 to 20 degrees above average. Notice 7 degrees above average for Friday, but still above average significantly for Columbus and Philadelphia, Chicago. And those temperatures you see right there, they'll be in the 90s once again in those areas all across. So notice all that, the areas in red, 90s in the eastern half of the country. The southwest areas in purple indicating those triple digits like you see in Phoenix and in Las Vegas. And there's your how it changes for Saturday. Not much change, if anything, a couple of degrees warmer. Boston, some cooler air, and Minneapolis coming down from the north, helping to keep your temperatures in the 70s. So that's been a big change there. Okay, look at the 7-day temperature trend here. We'll go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So 78 degrees is the average, and we'll be below that on Friday, and then slightly above on Saturday. But notice I don't see any 90s here, so you won't be really experiencing too much of an extreme heat situation here. But Tuesday, you go to mid-80s, which is almost about 10 degrees above your average temperature there. Charlotte, North Carolina, yeah, this is where you will be feeling those 90-degree temperatures pretty much for the next 7 days. 88 is your average. And so be prepared for that going into the weekend and even into next week. Make sure you're taking the precautions. If you don't have AC, make sure you go to a cool zone like a library or mall to spend the day there. St. Louis, Missouri for you. Look at all those 90s Tuesday next week, and Monday upper 90s.
TikTok is accusing the Biden administration of, quote, political demagoguery in a legal challenge against its potential ban in the U.S. The company also disclosed a letter sent to the Justice Department detailing negotiations held with the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States. TikTok says the talks ultimately resulted in a national security agreement requiring the company to implement stronger safeguards for U.S. user data. The social media giant's lawsuit is expected to be one of the biggest legal battles in tech and internet history. Legendary film and TV star Donald Sutherland has died. Sutherland's son, actor Kiefer Sutherland, confirmed he died in Miami after a long illness. The 88-year-old was best known for his roles in The Hunger Games and MASH. Sutherland won Emmy Awards and Golden Globes during his career and recently worked with his son on a new Western called Horizon. The Los Angeles Lakers have found their new head coach. The team has reportedly agreed to terms with former NBA player J.J. Redick. It ends a long process to find Darvin Ham's replacement. Redick played for 6 teams during a 15-year career. He retired in 2021 and has been in the media working the NBA Finals this season for ESPN. There's a new Netflix documentary out called Black Barbie. It's a behind-the-scenes story of the creation of the first Black Barbie doll. Spectrum's Ray Williams shares a journey of the creators and the doll's impact on multiple generations.
It's one thing to have a Barbie that reflects your style. It's another thing to have designed her. And that's what Kitty Black Perkins did.
This one is actually Holiday Brandy.
Kitty worked for Mattel for almost 30 years, and she designed the first Black Barbie, which debuted in 1980.
It was so different, and it felt really, really good to be able to just express myself through the doll.
And Kitty had no idea just how much it would have an impact.
At the time, I felt that it was going to be a success, but I had no idea of the magnitude that it was going to bring.
That magnitude is now being shown in a new Netflix documentary called Black Barbie, highlighting the journeys of Kitty, Beulah Mae Mitchell and Stacey McBride Irby, who were integral in the birth of Black Barbie. The film was the idea of Beulah Mae's niece, Lajeria Davis, who got curious after living with her aunt.
I knew that she worked for Mattel, but I didn't know her story.
Lajeria warmed to dolls and knew she had to make this film.
Connecting those dots and the things that sometimes generations can take for granted, the work that was done just for us to have what we have in our life and the work that we're doing for future generations to have in their life.
The film brings dolls to life and features influential women like Shonda Rhimes and Senator Maxine Waters.
It's a love letter to Black women, to Black girls.
The film also dives into the psychology of what representation means. And for producer Aaliyah Williams, that was one of the most impactful surprises.
I wasn't aware that Black Barbie didn't exist until 1980.
Aaliyah grew up with black dolls thanks to her parents' acute awareness of a 1940s doll test. And while filming Black Barbie, she was surprised to learn how dolls had an impact on desegregating schools.
It was this doll test and understanding how there is damage done with kids who didn't see themselves in dolls that looked like them that made such a monumental piece of legislation happen. I just thought that was incredible.
And she hopes the film sends a message.
I'm excited for little girls and little boys to see this and know that whatever it is that they want to make, they can.
And Kitty definitely now knows how many lives she's touched.
I myself, when I grew up, did not have any black dolls. And I know talking with a lot of ladies and a lot of young people, they enjoy having black dolls in their lives now.
One Black Barbie, lots of big change. Ray Williams, Spectrum News.
I'm Sharon Townswell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
It's really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.